in today's UWP application, what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to do a navigation view. And so this is the final product we're going to build. You can, of course, take this and expand upon it and actually fill in the pages. But we're going to use just simple pages with just like one piece of text inside of it. So for example, here's our navigation view. I can expand it. You can see what it looks like. You see it's already got animations built into it. And you can just click on, this is the maps page, this is the weight page, this is the weather page, this is the time page, which counts the weight page. I gotta fix that. Oops. There's a back button as well, right? So get back, right? And essentially there's also a settings page, right? I put that in bold and a bigger text just to make it look distinct. But this is the idea. This is what we're gonna be building, and navigation navigation views are very powerful. They're very common, right? We have this what's known as the hamburger menu that comes up. It's very common even in app development. So it's very important to learn. I could say that Windows has made it or Microsoft has made it very easy to apply this. The learning curve is a bit tricky, but it's actually not that bad. So this is our final product. So let's get into it. We're going to build a new application. So I'm going to assume you've already got a new empty project open, and again, it's a UWP application, not a WPF application, but a UWP application. So we have here our main page that's already been predefined for us. app.xaml is there as well. What we're gonna do is we're going to set this to be, you can choose any device you want. I'm going to be focusing on, and that's the beauty of it, is that you can choose whatever device. So I'm going to stick to a laptop, so 13.3 desktop, right? Just for all intents and purposes here, but you can of course use whatever you wish. Just going to change the zoom. Maybe 100 is too big. I'll go 66, and that should be good enough. There we go. All right. So we have our home page here. And so what we're going to do is, before we continue, what we're going to add a few more pages. And I want to get this out of the way first, because there's something important you have to do here that if you don't do, you're going to end up with like days and days of headache of just trying to figure out, why doesn't this thing work? Why? Just like, and actually the reason why I'm emphasizing this, because I went through a number of days of why isn't this working, until I realized I had done something fundamentally wrong, and it was at this point. So it's really important to start paying attention to this next step here. So what we're gonna do first off is we're gonna right click on our project name and add a new folder, right? And we're gonna call it views. And within views, we're gonna add our sub pages, right? So I'm gonna right click. Again, I'm going to say add new item, and it is very important you go with blank page. I went with XAML view originally, right? And I'm trying to create, and it creates the simple page template, but this ain't gonna work. None of it's gonna work if you use XAML view. So again, blank page is what you must use, right, when you're adding your pages here in order to get this to work. So the first page I'm going to call it Maps View, and give it a home within the view. I'll right click again, add new, not existing, sorry, new item. All right, and again, blank page. Going to call it Settings View. All right, and so now we got our settings view there. Just gonna right click, add new item, and we're gonna call it a time view. Just gonna right click again, add new item, weather view. Just gonna delete that, and we'll try again. So add new item, again blank page, weather view. finally add new item, weight view. All right. And so now we have all of our pages. What we're going to do is just put a simple box or text box in for each, right? Just to emphasize what this page is. So I'm going to start with maps view. Just going to add a text box or text block. And I won't worry about the name of it. It's just static text. So I'm just going to put this is the maps page. We'll center it. Or not. There we go. And the font is what I'm looking for actually. So we'll make it a 22. I'm going to make it bold. There. Just going to center it there on the page. And that's our maps page. Now, one thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a tag to the page so that the navigation view picks it up. So this is also important. So I'm looking at my XAML code here. I am just putting my cursor somewhere on the page definition, anywhere in the page definition. Under properties, I'm going to search for tag. And I'm going to give the tag a value. So I'm going to say map view. I'm actually just going to reuse the name of the file just for ease. So call it maps view, hit tab. So now it's added a tag called maps view. All right, so it's going to do Control S to save this page. I'm going to go to settings page. Settings page, I want it to be a little bit distinct from the other pages, so I'm going to use a bigger font, but same idea. I'm just going to throw a text block there as well. All right, just say this is the settings page. And I'll go with like a 36 font, bold, just to distinguish this from other pages, as this is the settings page. It's special. All right, center that. And again, click on it on the page tag within XAML. I have tag here. It's going to say settings view. All right, just do a Control S to save. I'm going to now switch over to time view. Add another text block. And this is the time page. I'm going back to the original 22 font, bold. Centering it. And clicking on the page there, going to tag. We'll call it time view. Control S to save. Two more. So weather view, same idea. So this is the weather page. 22 font, bold, center. And adding a tag to the page attribute. So this is weather view. And finally, weight view. So this is the weight page. And add its tag, weight view. There. So now all my pages are created. Now I can focus on creating a navigation view for this. So now I'm going to switch back to mainpage.xaml. And now I'm going to work on creating the navigation view in main page. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to populate our main page.xaml. So in order to add a navigation view, you just simply add the tag navigation view. And there you go, right off the bat, it's added the navigation side over here. And if you look, you have your back button. It's kind of grayed out because we haven't enabled back button functionality. And we got our hamburger menu here, and we have settings. All right, it's already pre-populated with those features for us to code up in the background. Now it's just up to us to add our menu items here. So in order to do that, we're going to jump back inside navigation view here. I'm going to add a new tag that says navigation view dot menu items. All right, so we got navigation view menu items. Now I'm going to add my items. So I'm going to say navigation view item. And we'll say content equals maps. So that's the text that'll appear in this menu here. And I'll actually link it up with a particular page. I'm going to link it up with the maps page. Now we define the tag for the maps view as maps view. So I'm going to say tag equals maps view. All right. And there you go. Now you're seeing maps right here. All right. Now let's add another one. So navigation view item. Content equals weight. Tag equals weight view. So again, the tag, not necessarily the page name, but just to connect the two together. All right, so now we have maps and weight, and you can see it up there in our preview. Now another one, so we'll say navigation view item. Content equals weather. Tag equals weather view. And then finally, navigation view item. Content equals time. Tag equals time view. All right, and that's it. So now we've got our 4 pages we want to navigate between. Give it a run. And there you can see it's got our menu here, but it's kind of just showing the text and it's cutting off the res, and that's not nice, right? I mean, at least so far so good. We got a navigation bar up and running, but this is not what I want to show people. What we want to do is we want to have icons here rather than text. So let's go ahead and replace this text with icons. So I'm going to close this up. So the nice thing about XAML here is that it actually has the icons ready to go. And there's a whole slew of icons you could be using that would appeal to whatever menu you're trying to work with. I've picked up on 4. Visual Studio 22 crashed on me, so I'm just waiting for it to reload. There we go. All right, and so now, there it is. Okay, so now let's do this. Let's add our icons here so we can replace the text with icons. So going back to our navigation view item, we have content maps, tag is maps view, and I'm going to add icon equals, And you can see all the icon options you have available at your disposal. I'm going to go with map. All right, for this one. Now for weight, I'm going to say icon equals people. I mean, you can feel free to experiment with the different icons available, see if there's something more to your liking. For weather view, I'm going to say icon equals, I couldn't think of anything better than just shop. Maybe there's something better than that. Maybe there's a sun or something. And finally, icon equals, and we went with clock for time. All right, so now you're seeing the icons appear here. We run it again. All right, now you're seeing the icons much better, right? You expand the menu, you have your text, hide it again, you just have the icons. Makes much more sense. All right, so now we have enough to actually get this thing to actually start navigating, because right now if I click on the different icons, right, nothing really happens. And this is the key feature now, is that now we need to get the pages to appear here for the corresponding icon. So what we need to do is this white space here that we have, we need to define this area. So because we have just a navigation view here, we need to actually put some tag here to say this is an area that's going to be used to load this this new page. So going back to our XAML, after navigation view, just gonna hit enter and add something new here. We're gonna put a frame here. So a frame is an object that will basically just be an open frame. Within it, you put stuff in it, most likely views. So we would just take one of these page views here, and it would be populating the frame as we click on the different icons. That's the idea behind it. So I'm going to say frame, give it a name. So x name equals content frame. And there we go. We got our closing frame tag there. Now I'm going to add an event handler to this. So I'm going to put my icon back inside frame. I like doing my content, my event handlers through the lightning bolt and properties. So if I'm going to switch over to the properties window here on the right hand side, there's the lightning bolt icon there to list out all of my different event handlers. I'm going to look for navigation failed or on navigation failed. So there's navigation failed. Let's go double click on that and let it auto generate the navigation failed method. I'm not going to fill it in. This is an opportunity for you if you wanted to have some sort of error messaging or have maybe a default message going to show the user if we aren't able to load that page. So we have here an option to do some completion here. But I have my frame. That's really what I care about. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an event handler for the navigation view. So I'm going to switch back to the XAML page, so main page.xaml. And I'm going to put my icon back on navigation view. So there's a few things we're going to add to navigation view. All right. So the first thing is I'm going to give it a name. All right. So navigation view, I'm going to say x name is equal to nav view. All right. So we need to give this navigation view a name. Second thing is I'm going to add an event handler called item invoked. So I'm going to switch over. So I already have in my properties nav view is already set. I'm going to look for item invoked here. There it is. Item invoked. I'm going to double click on the box there. Let it auto generate the item invoked event handler. And there's a couple more I need. So I need I need loaded. So going back to main page.xaml. Still in nav view. I'm going to look for loaded. So there's loaded right there. Not loading, but loaded. So be very careful of that. So double click on loaded. All right, it's got our nav view loaded event handler. And we're gonna need selection changed. So jumping back to main page.xaml, I'm gonna add selection change. I'm not gonna populate it in this exercise today, but we'll have it there. So selection change, gonna double click on that. And we'll have that open. So this is enough for now. I need one more, but I'm going to add that later when I get to that discussion point. So now I'm just going to hit save because I don't trust Visual Studio 2022 to crash and reload on me. So I have all my files saved. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump now. So my XAML code is done for now. I'm going to jump over to my CS file. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the code here that will enable us to be able to load the different pages. So looking at item invoked, I'm going to write the following code and then I'll explain it afterwards. So first I'm going to say var item equals args.invoked item container as navigation view item. All right. Now, I want to make sure that I actually got a page and not null. So I'm going to test for that. I'm going to say if item equals null or item equals underscore last item, return. Now it's complaining, so I need a variable called last item. So I'm going to add that right now. I'm going to put it at the top. Because we want to keep track of, because this is going to come in handy for when we do our back. So going back to previous pages. So that's all we need, this variable. So private navigation view item. I'm going to call it underscore last item. There. So I got that last item to keep track of the last item that was loaded. All right. And now what I'll say is here, I'm going to say if not navigate to view. Now we haven't created this method yet, so we're going to create it right now. Navigate to view for clicked view return. And then we'll say last underscore last item equals item. All right. So this is how we're able to keep track of the previously added item. Now we don't have this method, so what we're going to do is we're going to create this method. There. Generate method navigate to view. There we go. So this is what I wanted. So it's a private bool navigate to view, and the method, the argument we're going to pass in is not an object called click view, but a string called clicked view. All right, get rid of that throw. All right, now what we can do is we can actually, now what we're going to do here is we're going to try and grab the page that's defined by this string. The string that's going to be passed in here is basically the tags that we've defined for the different pages, right? And for the navigation view. So the argument that's going to be passed into this method, navigate to view, is actually, I jump back here for a sec, one of these tags. One of these tags, all right? So what we do then is we're going to try and grab the page from the assembly here. So I'm going to say var view equals assembly dot get executing assembly. Actually, it's not assembly event load args, it's just assembly. Dot get type, and don't worry about the errors, we're going to fix that in a moment. So get type for dollar. Now this is you have to type out verbatim here. So dollar, open up a set of quotes, your project name. So mine is called W8P2 exercise dot views. So my project name is W8P2 exercise, but we've got the folder views here, all right, in our file hierarchy. So dot views dot, and then open up a curly bracket and clicked view, and then close our quotes after. All right, so that's essentially what we're trying to go with here. So put a semicolon there. Now let's fix this error. See if it'll let me. Yeah, so it's gonna put in that using there that I need. There we go. So, and just to scroll up, just so you can show, it's actually it belongs inside system.reflection. So that's where it is. So that's gonna save us some time there. All right. So now you shouldn't have any issues. All right, it's going to complain because we haven't returned any true or false yet for this method, and same with the method above. So once we get to that, once we get there, it'll fix that. So now suppose we're trying to load a page here that doesn't exist. So we want to test for that. We're going to say if string dot is null or white space for clicked view, or view equals null, then return false. Otherwise, we're going to navigate there. So our frame that we defined a moment ago is called content frame. So we're going to say content frame. This is where the actual navigation takes place now. So content frame dot navigate for view. We're going to use the third overload here. So source type will say null. And finally, we'll say new entrance navigation transition info. Now I was going to complain about that. Entrance navigation. And make sure I spelled it correctly. See if it'll give me the correct. Yep. So using media animation essentially is where it exists. There we go. So it's going to not only load it, it's going to animate at the same time. And I spelled it correctly, thankfully. So it's actually going to load it here. And then finally, return true. Now the error should go away. And it's still, actually, yeah, it should have gone away. Now the reason we're seeing this error up here is because we didn't define clicked view. So let's fix that right now. So we're going to say var clicked view equals item.tag .toString. Now at the same time, let's work in settings view. So it could also be settings view. Now I noticed we didn't add a navigation bar item or view item for the settings page, right? Because it's already pre-built and it's already been given the settings view tag, right? And we also gave it the settings view tag inside the page as well. So this allows us to automatically load the settings page at the same time. So at this point, let's give it a run and see if we've got enough here. to see the different pages in action. All right, so this is blank. I click on map. So this is maps page, and it actually overlaid everything. So yeah, we're not complete here, but we're close. And the reason why it overlaid here was actually my mistake. So we're going to switch back to main page. And actually this frame is supposed to be inside navigation view. So that was my mistake right there. So I'm just going to hit enter just inside navigation view. Just going to move frame inside of there. So looking very carefully, frame has to belong to navigation view. All right, so this is very important that we fix this right now. Give it a run again. All right, so nothing's loaded by default. Click on the maps page, click on, oh, and of course, Visual Studio has to crash on me. So I'm just gonna pause the video, let it reload, get back to that again. All right, and so I let Visual Studio reload and reran the app, and here we go. All of our pages load nicely, right? But there was one thing you may have noticed briefly when I first loaded this, was that by default, it's a blank page. So nothing loads automatically by default. So let's fix that. Let's say that we want our maps page to load automatically by default when we load this application, right? We want that to be the first thing that happens. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the nav view loaded method. So you can see here in navigation view, I had you guys create the nav view loaded event handler. So we're going to switch over to that inside our XAML file. So there's nav view loaded. So this will fire as you're loading the navigation view onto the screen. So inside of this, we're going to basically set it up so that map view is always loaded by default. So we're going to navigate through all of our we're going to have to do a for each through all of our possible menu items. So we're going to say for each navigation view item base. There, navigation view item base item in nav view dot menu items. Inside of that, we'll say if item is navigation view item, and item dot tag dot toString equals maps view. And of course, this is the line where you can actually specify if you wanted to have a different page load by default, you could set that here. You just choose a different tag. So we'll say nav view dot selected item equals item and break. And then what we're going to do is at the end of the for each, content frame dot navigate to type of W, and now again your project name. So mine is called W8P2 exercise dot views because that's the subfolder I put it under. Dot maps view, and try it again. All right, so you can see here now maps has loaded by default. All right, and of course whatever page you chose as the page to load by default is the page that loads. All right, so now you may have noticed as we were running it that when we just clicked on the settings view and it crashed the whole app. And it's a really quick fix. Going back to this line, click view, item.tag, put a question mark there. So that if this is null, what the crash was happening because tag was null and it was trying to invoke a toString on a null object. And so that's why it crashed. So if we put the question mark there, what it'll do is if it crashes, it's kind of like handling an exception and continuing on, but without having to actually go through handling the exception. So by adding this question mark here to tag, we now run it. And this is, for instance, where you don't have any pages, when you don't have a page for what you're requesting. So that's really why it's happening there. So now maps page, where I click on settings, there's my settings page. So no more crashing. All right. So for settings page, just put the question mark there and you'll be fine. All right, last thing we're gonna do is the back button. So we have a back button in the top corner. Let's get it up and running. So there's two things we have to do. They're both inside our XAML file for our navigation view definition. So going back here under navigation view, first thing we're gonna do is go back to our lightning bolt. We're gonna look for the back requested event handler, so it's right there. I'm just gonna double click on that, let it auto generate. And it's thinking. Hopefully Visual Studio doesn't crash on me again. I have a bad feeling it will. All right, after a crash and restart, I finally got this up and running. So we created the back requested event handler, but there's one other thing we have to do back in XAML, and then we're really done, is we have to add this variable called canGoBack to navview. So I'm going to switch back to mainpage.xaml, and I'm just going to start a new line here. It's getting really long. Under the navigation view tag definition, we're going to say is back enabled equals, and then open a set of curlies. I'm going to say binding element name content frame comma path equals can go back. So we're going to associate this can go back variable with our content frame object below. So we're kind of tying them together so that when can go back is enabled, then it's going to act upon the content frame to load the previous page. So that's the idea behind this binding here in a nutshell. All right, so now we have everything. So you can Control S to save my work because I don't trust my laptop right now. And I'm going to switch back to my back requested event handler we just generated. And we're going to fill in the code for getting our back button to go back. And it's really simple. We're going to say if content frame dot can go back, then content frame dot go back. That's it. Now let's give this a run and see our fully functioning navigation view in action. All right, so we have here maps page. I'm going to click on go to the weight page, and click on go to the weather page, go to the time page. Since we're at it, go to the settings page, click back. Going back to previous pages, now I'm back at my first page. Notice that my back button is grayed out and unusable until I click on another page and go back. All right, so there you have it. Now you have a fully functioning navigation view here, right? With your own items, icons, a settings page, back button. Now it's up to you to populate the different pages as you see fit with whatever you want to do for the application you want to build. All right, so that's it for today's tutorial. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye for now.